It's Magnet Network Live, and I am your host, Maggie John. I'm now joined by Andrea Sampson. She is the CEO of Talk Boutique, a speaker development representation training firm. She works with thought leaders, scientists, and innovators to craft compelling stories and presentations, helping them communicate complex ideas effectively. Her work often focuses on science communication and storytelling for business leaders. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Biggest takeaway from the past 2 days?
Oh, you know what? People.
Oh.
Just amazing, amazing people here. I think that's one of the things that for me, as we come out of the last 4 years, just being able to be together, to have good conversations, to hear stories, to be able to connect on a human level. I think it is so important. And, look, there's always lots of great information at these types of conferences, and I'm excited with all the learning, but it's really all about the people for me.
I think sometimes you're so right, Andrea. I think sometimes we forget how important it is to just be amongst each other and not on the Zoom calls all the time, because there's, those side conversations that you wouldn't have on Zoom or some other online portal, right? And just the vibe, the energy, all of that.
It's true. Like I was talking to somebody the other day and we're saying, what we've lost is, the water cooler conversation, right? Like, we would go into our office, every day and like in the mornings, what would we do? We'd go to the kitchen, we'd grab our coffee or a glass of water or whatever it was. And someone else was there and we'd like, did you watch or did you do? Or, and we just, it wasn't so much that it wasn't what we were saying.
No.
It was that we were connecting.
It was the connection. Absolutely.
And that's what we've lost because, Zoom is efficiency, right? It's like jump on right in, oh my God, I got another one, gotta go. And so, like one of the things that I'm starting to see happen in the Zoom world, in the video world, is people are now starting to open up their Zoom calls 15 minutes early so that you can do that, but it's still not the same.
No, but I think if anything, we have grown to appreciate this.
Yes.
Like what we're doing right now, right? Because we can easily do it at home in our pajamas, but it wouldn't be the same as connecting the way we are today.
Look, I think it was, there was the novelty of, hey, I'm like at work in my pajamas, and we all loved it until we didn't. Right. Now we're like,
get me out of these pajamas. Like, I want some real clothes.
Exactly. Like I want to actually look okay, like I want to do the things that I used to do. Like, it's like anything, the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
And so, we were all the way over and, I want to hang out in my pajamas all day and like have my cat with me. And then it's like, be careful what you wish for.
Right. Because you got a lot of it. A lot of it.
And it's not just that we're not as productive, we're not as creative.
Yeah.
Because I think, one of the things I know about being a creative soul is you need tension. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean stress, I mean tension. Mm-hmm. And tension is that there's something pulling you in a way that you don't want to go. And suddenly you have an idea. And that's what we lost, like sometimes it's the tension of the pants that are too tight. Speaking for myself, but sometimes it's the tension of like, being in a constant go, and your brain is going, wait a minute, I need the release of creativity. I want to start to look and do things differently. And so there's where we get innovation, right?
Yeah.
Because and I think we're real in danger with going into too far into this work from home where, everybody's in silos. Innovation doesn't happen in silos.
Yeah.
And, if we look at, the reason for this conference, Future of Work, innovation is a big part of it. And look, not to say that we're lacking because there's a lot of innovation happening out there. But I think if we keep going down this road, we're going to find ourselves becoming less and less and less innovative.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the back-to-back meetings and not that margin of space to be creative, to bounce ideas off of each other, to, just to say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Instead of the whole structured meeting back to back, right? And not being able to explore new areas. Let's talk a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah.
My first question is, how can leaders effectively communicate complex ideas in a way that resonates with diverse audiences, especially in times of rapid change?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in that question to unpack,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, how can you communicate complex ideas? How can you do it through a lens of diversity and what's
And
going on with
change.
change, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot there. I mean, when we talk about complex ideas, one of the biggest challenges with complex ideas is that, first of all, there's the word ideas in there.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know what an idea is, right? Like, we think we do, but I go, what's your idea? And it might take you an hour to tell me what it is. An idea is one sentence in really tightly contextualized. So the first thing is just getting that idea down. When I used to work in the TED world, in the TEDx world, and the thing that would happen a lot when we would get people applying to be on stage is that they would tell us stories. And look, don't get me wrong, I love a good story, but a story is not an idea.
Right.
And so you've got to be able to separate out the idea from the story so that the story is the right thing to contextualize that idea. And that's how you decode a complex idea, is that you have the right context for it, which is story. And then when you talk about, diversity, looking at the ways in which, diversity plays into this, well, the great thing about stories is that it allows us to bring who we are and why we know the things we know into the context for our ideas. And this is something I talk about a lot. Like I talk about the need for more diverse thought leaders in our world. Why? Because, well, thought leaders are creating the future. And when we look out there, the problem that we have is that we tend to put these thought leaders onto pedestals. They're leaders of countries, leaders of companies, leaders of industry. And I don't know about you, but when I look out there, I don't see any of them looking like me, And the problem with that is if they're creating my future, where's my voice in that?
Yeah.
And so stories allow us to take our thought leadership and to convey it using our own diversity in a way that starts to contribute towards the future that's being created.
Why do you think we've lost the essence of what an idea is?
Because I think it's one of those words that became ubiquitous. I got a good idea.
Right.
Right? And the problem with that is, okay, I had a thought.
Yeah.
That's not an idea.
Yeah.
And so when we look at ideas, what is an idea? Like, as an example, you're giving a business presentation. Okay. Somewhere inside of that business presentation, there's an idea in there. But it's probably got 50 slides.
Right.
It's got a whole bunch of research. It's got maybe some testimonials. Maybe there's a case study in there. Where's the idea?
Yeah.
You're believing that somebody will be able to suss out what you actually mean, but you haven't come out and you actually don't know what you mean. You're going all around it. And we do this all the time. Like, we start to tell somebody our idea and we talk for 10 minutes and back our way into it. And then we go, oh, this is what I really meant. But you've lost your audience. Yeah. You actually forgot all the stuff you said before it. And now there's no connection points.
But do you think that's because, Andrea, because we've been trained to back everything up with tons of research, tons of reasons why, because we don't really believe in our idea. So we think, oh, if I prove that I've read all of this, if I prove that I've studied all of this, then Andrea will believe my idea. And in the midst of that, we lose the idea.
That's it. And so yes, I think there's that. And I think that we've lost the respect for the idea too.
Oh, that's good.
Because I think that, to your point, the data has become more important than the idea itself. And the idea is why we do what we do. The idea is the thing. It's like, I talk a lot about thought leadership. That's my idea. Diversity of thought leadership so we can create the future we want. That's my idea.
Yeah.
And if I start filling in, like, look, I could find tons of research. I could do my own research on it. And, to some degree I have. But if I start talking to you about how 1 in 5 thought leaders is a person of color, you're tuning out. Like, I've just bored the hell out of you. If I, say,
I'm starting to think 1 in 5. I'm like, who are these people?
Well, exactly. And I mean, I just made that up. That's totally a made up stat. But the point there is that rather than saying that, if I'm saying, we need a future that is inclusive, not only of people of color, but those who are neurodiverse, those who are gender diverse, those who have cultures that, that are different. And now we start thinking about that. And you start thinking about all the people you know who
Yeah.
fit all of those different places. And you go, yeah, like, wait a minute. Like, I want my future to be inclusive of those people as well. Well, who's representing them? Now, I don't need to give you any stats. We can all go, yeah, that makes sense. Now, if I was trying to prove something, yeah, maybe I'd go and do some research, but I don't need to prove it. I think we can all feel that. When we get into the place of proof, and this is where academics and science, and I work with a lot of scientists and academics, and in the industry, of course, there's lots of competitiveness, and they're all trying to, sort of prove each other either right or wrong. And I think that's actually part of the losing respect for the idea, because now it's not about the idea, it's about who got there first, who got there more clearly, who got there more completely. And it's like, yes, but can we go back to what we were actually trying to prove out? Like, if what we're trying to do is to cure cancer or come up with, a way to teleport between, places, so that we don't have to drive cars and fly planes.
Yeah.
If that's what we're trying to prove out, does it really matter who got there first? Or does it matter that we got there?
Yeah.
Good. And so I think that's part of it for me.
So then how can businesses develop stronger communication strategies to build trust and drive action in this evolving workforce? And we come back to this, the idea.
Yeah. And well, first of all, the first thing, and I work with, again, a lot of business leaders too. And we teach them how to be storytellers, right? Now, we don't think about business and storytelling. Those two things are like almost they don't go together, right? Except they do. Because we all know when, you're sitting in the boardroom, 10 people, we're all sitting there, there's one presentation after another. We've all been in that boardroom, right?
Yeah.
And then the guy gets up or the girl and they start telling a story.
Yeah.
And right away, you're like, oh, that's interesting. Yep. Where did that come from? And suddenly in that story, they're delivering something that you didn't know. And you're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. And then they start telling us, here's what we're going to do. Here's the plan. And now you're fully bought into that, right? That person is a storyteller. Yeah. They're a business storyteller. And so when we have the courage and the bravery to use our own lives as the context for the ideas and the work that we want to do, what we do is we shift the conversation within the boardroom, within the context of the work that we do. And not only are we, listened to, but people remember, this is like so important. There's brain science behind stories. It's not just like, it's kind of cool. When you tell a story, 60 to 70% of the information you tell within that story is remembered. Think about your last corporate presentation. Yeah. How much of it do you think is remembered? 10, maybe 20%? If you can get 60 to 70% of it remembered, think about the impact that you could make within your business. Think about the growth of your own career. If every presentation you're giving, 70% of it gets remembered and gets fed back to you, and you get credit for that. Storytelling is powerful.
Andrea, I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome. This has been absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
That was Andrea Sampson. She is the CEO of Talk Boutique.